Hello everybody and welcome to the horse purse making workshop. So in this video we are going to be making a piece of leather art that can be used for keys, small items, small cards, and you can also clip this item onto a belt loop or a handbag as a key ring or as a piece of art. So in your kit you will have 5 leather pieces. They all look like very unusual shapes, and you will also have a range of different hardware. You will have some screws, we call these male screws. You'll have some female screws, and we call these 2 screws Chicago screws. You will have one screw that looks a little bit different to the others, and we call this a Sam Brown. You will have a trigger hook, which we will use to add to your horse purse later on. And you will also have a ring, which you can use to add keys or small items. Included in your kit will also be either a small screwdriver or a jewelry screwdriver. We use both different types, so you will either have one of these in your kit. You may have some screwdrivers at home that you prefer to use instead. I'm going to show you a close-up of some of the fittings and fixtures so you can see them in more detail and just talk through them one more time in a little bit more detail before we start. So as I said, you will either have one of these 2 screwdrivers. So you will either have a jeweler's screwdriver or you will have a small screwdriver. They both work the same. We just use them in different kits. You may also have a screwdriver at home that you prefer to use instead. So this one screw that you will have is called a Sam Brown, and it's what we will use at the end to create a closure for your horse purse. It has one piece that has a little ball on the end that is used to make a closure, and it comes also with a screw. So you need to make sure you keep those separate to the other screws. The other screws are called Chicago screws. These are all from Italy. We use Italian chrome-plated hardware for quality. And on one side is the finished side, which is chrome-plated, and on the other side is the female part of the screw. The other screws that go with these Chicago screws are the male part. These will screw inside the female part of the screw. They are a little bit shorter than the screw for the Sam Brown. That's why you don't want to get those 2 mixed up. So I'm just going to move these to one side so I can show you some other items. So as I said, you will also have a trigger hook. This is what you will use to clip your horse purse or your piece of leather art onto a bag, onto a belt loop, or onto anything you like, maybe the strap of a handbag or a loop that you have on a garment or somewhere around the home. So this is called a trigger hook, and again it's a very high quality chrome plated trigger hook from Italy. You will have a variety of rings, so you might have a ring that opens like this, or you might have a split ring which opens in a different way. So each kit is supplied with a type of ring that you can attach your keys to, or different staff cards or staff passes, whatever you'd like to attach to hold inside your horse purse. And we will explain these items towards the end of today's workshop. So everybody, let's make a start. So as I said earlier, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of leather to make this horse. It's a unique pattern that I created. I specialize in creative pattern cutting, and I specialize in leather art and leather artistry. After working in the textiles and leather industry for many years, I've developed some very unique pattern cutting skills to allow you to make different bags, purses and leather goods and pieces of leather art from your own home without any stitching or without the need for any intensive factory processes. Now all these pieces look very different. So what you want to find is the pieces that have a sticker on the back. Now this is the front of the leather, so you might have ordered a black horse purse or a chestnut horse purse or an ochre colour horse purse. I'm using black today for the video, but you should be able to tell which is the right side. So in the black, it's more shiny on one side. This is the right side of the leather, and you can also see my logo on the leather, which is on the right side of the leather. The wrong side of the leather is more matte. And you'll notice in your kit, I've also placed a small sticker on this piece. So this piece is more square than the other pieces. It has the logo on. And if you turn it round to the wrong side, you will notice a sticker, which is the starting point for this workshop. You will notice this strange elongated piece of leather. Again, it's more shiny on one side. However, if you turn it over, it's more matte on the other side. So it's quite easy to tell the difference between the front and the back of the leather. So we need to turn these over, these two pieces, so we can see these two stickers. Now these other three pieces, they don't have any stickers on. So we are going to move these other shapes, which all look very uniquely different. So with these other three shapes, just move them to one side. We will use them later, and we just want to focus on these two pieces for now. So these are the first two pieces that we're going to use in our kit. And these are the first two holes. So you'll notice there's a hole here on the bottom of this piece. So you can see a hole here and a hole here. That's why I've placed a sticker on the back of these pieces, just to make it easy to identify where you need to start with your horse purse. So we are going to start with this hole and this hole. So when you're happy and you can remember this hole and this hole, you can remove the sticker. So you can either use one of your screwdrivers or your fingernail or anything that you have. These should come off very easily, and just fold them up and put them to one side. This is just to help you start your horse purse and understand the right starting point. So we are going to attach the first part of our horse purse. So this is the right side of the leather, and this piece, this more square piece, and these two holes, this one and this one, are going to be attached together. This piece and this hole goes over the hole underneath. So you would place your first holes together, and you would take one of your Chicago screws, which is the female part, and we will put that through those 2 holes. So we want to see the finished side, and we want to put that through the first 2 holes. This will actually make the mouth of the horse later on. So now you can turn it over to the wrong side, and you should be able to see the screw coming through those 2 holes. Now I've just zoomed in ever so slightly, just so you can see where those 2 holes should go. So now that you've put your Chicago screw, the female part, through those 2 holes, you can turn your leather to the wrong side, and just by hand you can pop the male screw inside. You can, with either screwdriver, just tighten them up ever so slightly. Don't worry if the screw keeps on spinning. They're designed to be a little bit loose because we're going to twist and turn these patterns in many different ways to create this sculpture of a horse. So well done everyone, you've attached your first screw, and again this is the wrong side of the leather, which is more matte, and the right side of the leather is more shiny. Now the next piece that we need to concentrate on, it's not this piece with the points, it's not this piece that has 2 dashes on the top, it's this piece which has 2 rounded edges and a wavy edge around it, and it also has 1, 2, 3 holes. So we're looking for this triangle of 3 holes. On this piece we also have a matching triangle of 3 holes. So what we want to do is we want to place this piece and these 3 holes on top of these 3 holes. So first I would put my female screws with the finished side, the flat side of the screw, through these 3 holes, and I would place it over these 3 holes there. So they should fit exactly, because that's how I've engineered this pattern, and they should fit like this. So you do now need to turn it over again to the wrong side of the leather, and you can see the screws, the female part of the screw popping through those 3 holes in a kind of an elongated triangle shape. So just by hand, to begin with, just pop your male screws through to the female part of the screw. If you struggle with the screwdrivers, you can quite easily twist them on by hand, or you can use the longer screwdriver if that's in your kit, or you can use the shorter one. Again, don't worry if they keep spinning and spinning and spinning, they should do. They should be a little bit loose because we are going to twist and turn this pattern. So the screw size is correct. There just might be, you might see a little bit of space in between the screw and the leather. That's not a problem. That is going to help us later on. So this is all the wrong side of the leather. It should be matte. and this is all the right side of the leather. So we've joined 3 of our horse pattern pieces together, and now we're going to concentrate on the next 2 holes, which are a little bit more difficult. The next 2 holes we're going to concentrate on is this one and this one. So on this piece where we added the 3 screws, the next holes that we are going to put our screw through is this one and this one. So what we need to do is we need to twist this part round to the front like this. Now you will see a little bump on here, so you don't want to twist it over that, you want to twist it under that little bump that you see there. I'm going to show you again, but I am going to zoom in more detail. So, like I said, we are focusing on these 2 holes, and these 2 holes underneath need to wrap around and go inside this hole. Again, you can see this little bump here. We don't want to wrap these pieces over. We want to wrap them under that little bump, and those holes will match up together. This is going to make part of the horse's nose. So you can see how those screws should line up, and you should have a little bump. So when you've twisted it round, you can put your female screw into this part, twist it round, and pop it into the other screw. Now you need to hold it quite firmly so you can keep this screw through the other hole on the other side. Then we will turn it around, and you can see on the wrong side of the leather that the screw is there. Again, I would recommend just putting the screw in by hand to begin with, just so to get the thread aligned. And should you need to, you can use the free screwdriver that came with your kit, or you might have one that you prefer to use at home. So that's the first part of the horse's nose done. Later on, this is going to become its mouth. And I'm just going to zoom out now to show you the other side. So it's exactly the same on the other side. We are now concentrating on this hole and that hole, and we need to do it exactly the same way we did this part. So pop a female Chicago screw through this part. It might pop out, but just pop it back in. Again, we want to go around underneath this bump. We don't want to go over it. So this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, because we've got to twist it into a 3D shape. So we want to do exactly the same with the other side. So we've put the female screw through those 2 holes, and now we can turn it over very carefully, keeping the 2 screws together, and we can pop a male screw into that hole, and then we can use a screwdriver or your hands, whichever you prefer, to make that connection. So this again is the back of the leather, and this is the front. And now we almost have the nose complete of the horse. So we're going to move on to our next two holes. So our next two holes are these two here. So we're going to be focusing on this one and that one on either side of the horse's nose. And we're also going to focus on this one and this one. You'll notice there's a little bit of a point and a curve on this piece. So we don't want to use this hole. We don't want to use this hole. That is for later on. We want to use this hole here and this one. So how this works is similar. We will pop a Chicago screw, the female part, through this side of the leather, and we will twist it over that hole. Not this one, so not the second one along, but the first one along. And we will pop that through like so. Turn it round again, and you just need to hold on to it very carefully. And you can see the screw there has gone through both layers. And again by hand, or using the screwdriver, or some tools, your own tools that you prefer, that you might have at home, you need to pop that screw in. Now we do include a few extra screws because every now and again you might find a screw that has a broken thread. It's normally 1 in 100, but sometimes, you know, a screw's thread can get damaged. So I'm going to use one of my spare screws because I think that might have a damaged thread. It's very rare, but sometimes, you know, screws, the thread can be damaged in some way, just in the production process. So we always include some extras, just in case you lose them, or in case you can't find the thread, or the thread of the screw on the male counterpart doesn't catch on to the female counterpart. So I'm just changing to a different screw, and now I have no problems. As I said, it's about 1 in 100, so we always add a couple of extra screws just in case you have a problem with any screws. So that's the first part done. So it should look like this from this side. And I'm gonna do it exactly the same again on the other side with this hole here to the first hole there, not the second one. But I'm gonna do this one more zoomed in, just in case you found it difficult to see last time. So well done everybody so far. You almost have the nose complete for your horse. Now again, we want to follow exactly the same process as each side. It's a symmetrical piece of leather art. So again, you would pop your female screw through this part, and you are twisting it over to the first hole on the other piece of leather underneath, like so. So it's exactly the same on both sides. You know, don't put it through this hole. That's a common mistake that everybody makes. Sometimes I make that mistake myself. So turn it around like we did last time, and you can see that the female part of the screw is there. And now you can put the male screw into that hole. And these screws are very fiddly, but over time you get used to them. So again, There we go. We have that screw inside, and we now have the nose of our horse using this very unique and creative pattern. This leather is also a vegetable tanned leather. I source all my leather very sustainably from a tannery in the Netherlands due to their ethical practice, and I source all my hardware from Italian manufacturers due to the quality. I'm based in Nottingham, but from Liverpool in the north of England, but I do prefer to source my leather from the Netherlands because of the strict rules that the tanneries are bound by within the EU and how they treat their chemicals. And I do prefer to source my hardware and metal from Italy because it's of much better quality than the metal that you can get in the UK. So everything we do is handmade in Nottingham in terms of all our kits, but we do prefer to buy our leather from Italy and to buy our leather from the Netherlands and our hardware from Italy, so you get a much better quality product. So we do source locally in Europe for our different materials to make your kits as high quality as possible. So the next two holes I would say are probably the hardest. So I am going to show you an easy option. If you want to go for the hard option, that is up to you. So I'll show you the easy option and the hard option, because we now need to make this three-dimensional. This hole has to go over to this hole, and likewise this pattern is symmetrical, so this hole has to go over to this hole. I would recommend to begin with that you twist the leather. This is the right side of the leather, so these corners, to start to make the three-dimensional shape of underneath the horse's chin, I would start to bend that around to make a bit of a rounded shape. So these holes, this one here, needs to go over to that hole. So you can see it's getting a bit more difficult. So the easy option is to put the female part of the screw, the finished side, this time through the back of the leather, through the wrong side of the leather, and fold that hole over that screw, and then use the male part of the screw on the outside. So if you have any issues with your hands or mobility, or if you have any arthritis, or if your hands are getting tired, I would recommend going for the easy option. This will bend later on, so this is going to bend into the horse's head. So you don't need to worry about how it's sitting at the moment, but it will start to make this shape. This will eventually bend that way. So the hard option, and you can see why it's the hard option, is putting, instead of putting the female screw through the back, is putting the female screw through this hole and twisting it round to that part. The reason why that's the hard option is because you've got to screw it from the inside. So it's very difficult to reach the inside with your fingers. So either way, it'll look, you know, very nice, whichever way you decide to do it. You can try it both ways. So you can see how hard it is to twist that female screw round to that hole. To make it easier, you can pull that right back because it needs to go that way anyway. And it's very hard for me to show you, so I'm just going to move my light a little bit closer. So that is the screw that we need to put through if you're doing it the hard way. So the male screw would go through the inside here. So I'm just trying to feel where that is. And I'm just going to use my hands to get that in. So you can see we've done it the easy way, putting the female screw on through this side, and we've done it the hard way by putting the female screw through this side. But now your horse is starting to take shape. So that was the hardest part done. So that is the most hardest part of this piece of leather art. And this is one of my hardest patterns. And this is as difficult as it gets, is those two screws, just because if your hands are bigger, my hands are bigger, you might have smaller hands. So that depends on also the size of your hands and the mobility of your fingers. But as you can see, we are starting to get something that looks like a horse. So I'm just going to zoom in to show you what we did. So on this piece, I used the female screw on the outside, which is the hard version, because I had to screw it from the inside, so it's very difficult to reach. And the easy option was putting the female screw through this part and having the screw on the outside. There's nothing wrong with having the screw on the outside. It just means it's easier to reach because you can tighten it from the outside. Sometimes as well, you can twist the female part over the male part of the screw. So some people also find that an easier option. I find that option quite difficult. So you just have to find the option that works for you and your level of craft skill. So the next piece, we only have 2 more pieces of leather left. We have the piece that has the horse's ears, that also will make the back of your purse. And we have this piece that has 2 dashes and quite a few different holes around the edges. So we want to focus now on these 2 holes, on these 2 separate pieces, and the same on the other side. We want to focus on these 2 holes, and we want to focus on this piece. You can see where the dashes are and this curve. So we want that to be this way round. So these 2 holes, this one and this one, fit into this hole and this hole. So you can quite simply put the female part of your screw through the right side of the leather, and this is the right side of the leather, not the matte back of the leather. So we want to put this hole on these long ends. We want to put the female screw through this hole and this hole, not this one or that one. That'll be the next one. So it's just focusing on this shape here. you should have your dashes further away. I'm focusing on this hole and that hole. So this one will go through here, like so. And then you can turn your piece around again, and now you can find the male screw and you can screw that together. So find a male screw and screw that together. Just bear with me a moment. I think mine got a little bit stuck there. So I'm just going to put my screw through again. I'm just going to start again with that one. So put your screw through. This is going to make the eyebrow of the horse. And again, keep your dashes away. And we're looking at these two holes and these two holes here, keeping these dashes away. So you should have this shape here and this rounded shape further away. So this hole goes to that one. Turn it round. Put your male screw inside. You can twist it round by hand. And you can tighten it up with your screwdriver. So you need to do exactly the same on the other side, but make sure you don't put it through that hole. Make sure you put it through this hole underneath. So you should have a hole there and you should have a hole there, which is the next stage. So let's pop this one in now through those two holes and pop that screw through. I'm going to move quite quickly through some of these stages, so you can pause. If I'm going too quick, you can just pause the YouTube video. So now we are working on the top of the horse's head. The next two screws we need to put in terms of the female ones, is we need to put one through here on this side of the horse, which is his kind of cheek and his nose. There's one hole left on this piece. So we put the female screw through this part and we put this part underneath. So this hole corresponds to that screw and it starts to make an eye. It starts to make his eyebrow shape and his face shape all come together. So it should look something like that. Again, you can turn it around to the wrong side. And I'm going to work at a bit of an awkward angle just so I can show you properly. So you can see the screw there. Again, get your male counterpart, screw, put it in by hand, or use the screwdriver to tighten it up. So that is the horse's eye coming together, and now you need to do exactly the same with the other side. So we put the screw, the female part, through here. Oop, it popped out. Put the female part through there, and this part, this piece of leather that has the dashes, goes underneath. Lots of people get this part mixed up and they put it over. If you do that, it will still work. It's not a problem. The pattern will still go together, and sometimes you can put these patterns together in your own unique way. But I'm just going to show you the way I put this pattern together when I sell these items in different galleries and craft centres. So this is how I make my leather horse art purses. So again, you can see that screw has gone through the 2 holes, the female screw. So I've just got the male counterpart now, and I'm just going to tighten that by hand. If you want it so that these screws will never come out, I use either a thread locker, which is like a fluid that you can put inside the screw, which you can find quite easily on any online store. I also use wood glue sometimes because that's very easy to wipe off the leather. So sometimes I will put a bit of wood glue inside the female part of the screw, and when it dries, it means the screws will never ever come undone. I wouldn't recommend doing that your first time, because if you make a mistake, it's very difficult to get the screws out. Okay, so for now, I would just recommend not using thread locker or not using any wood glue for now, just until you're sure exactly how this sculpture works. So you'll notice this piece pops up. Eventually that will pop underneath and it will make a more realistic horse shape, but it will continue to pop up until later on, until we start working on the last few holes. So you can push it down and keep pushing it underneath that part, but don't worry if it keeps popping up. It may do a few times until we get to the end. Now the next part is quite different in terms of this creative pattern, because we're going to work on these 2 dashes. This is how the ears work on this pattern. So again, this is the right side of the leather, and we're now going to start working on our last piece. This is the wrong side of the leather, which is more matte. So if you're working on the black horse, it'll be more matte. If you have the chestnut horse, it'll be more matte. If you have ordered the ochre horse, it'll be dark brown and ochre on one side. So it's much easier to tell with the ochre horse one side from the other, because on the ochre horse, the inside of the leather is a different colour. So we want to have our horse with the leather the right side up and the right side up for this one. And these ears are designed to slot through those dashes. So this can be a difficult job to do. And you want to pull to the left, pull to the right, pull to the left, pull to the right, and we now have one ear that has gone all the way through. So we need to find the point of the other ear, and again from underneath we need to slot it in as far as it will go, and then pull to the right, pull to the left, pull to the right, pull to the left, and it will automatically lock into place, giving us the 2 ears of the horse. So it's starting to look like a realistic horse now, because it has ears, it has its nose, it's got its eyes, it's starting to get its face shape. And now we are going to start working on the back. Again, I will show you an easy and a hard option with the back, depending on how much you want to challenge yourself. And it's similar to what we did earlier on, where we either had the screws on the outside or we had them on the inside. So there are kind of easy and hard options basically. So what we now have On our last leather piece, the one that has the ears, is we have 2 holes here and 2 holes there, and on the side we have 2 holes here and 2 holes there on the other side. So the hard option, let's start with that one if you feel like a challenge, is to put the female part of the screw through this rounded part, and to place that through the first hole here. And then you can move everything out of the way and you can screw the male counterpart screw through that side. I'm just doing it by hand to begin with. You can do all the screws by hand if you wish. You can, by holding them either side, do them by hand. If you want to do it the easy way, you would put the female part of the screw through the back of this hole here. So you put the female part of the screw through there like so, and then you would wrap that corresponding hole over like so, and then you would find the male counterpart screw, and then you can screw from the outside basically. The screws are chrome plated on either side, so nobody's going to notice if you've gone for the easy option or the hard option. So again, with the next 2 holes, these get a bit harder. So decide whether you want to go for the easy or the hard option. I will do both. Again, we have 2 holes down the side of this piece, and the piece that has the ears on, we have 1, 2 holes here. So these 2 holes are going to go over these 2 holes. So this part is going to overlap with this part. So I'll do this side the hard way, and then I'll zoom out and do the other side the easy way. So the hard way is putting the female part of the screw like so through here, through the corresponding hole, and trying your best to reach inside to find where that screw is. So you're trying to find the female part. It's a bit difficult for me because I'm trying to angle it this video so you can see. So it's quite hard for me to do that at an awkward angle. So you can spend a bit more time than me, and you can do it from an easier angle also. So you want to get that screw into that female part from the inside. So that's the hard option. Again, I'll do the easy option on this side, whereby you would put the female part of the screw through this part of the leather that had the ears on. And I'm just going to zoom out so you can see. So the easy part is the female part of the screw through the back. Then you can overlap very easily that part of the leather here, you can overlap that and put the male part of the screw on the outside. Some people prefer a more industrial look, so prefer to have all their screws on the outside, so it's a bit more steampunk. I personally prefer to have them all the screws hidden on the inside when I'm making work to sell, but it's just about personal taste. So this hole, again, is going to overlap into that hole, so you should see how they go together, how they overlap. I'm going to do both of these with the female part on the outside, because it's a bit more easy for me to reach inside and put the screw in. But it's entirely up to you if you decide to do it the other way around. So it should look like this. So this part of the leather has been folded and wrapped around the part of the leather that has the ears pulling through. So we've now closed the side of the back of our purse, and we're now going to close the other side the same. And again, I'm going to use the female part on the outside and just try to reach in and hold it with one hand and use one of your male screws to find the corresponding hole. It's just about trying to get the thread on, which is the difficult part really. It's trying to get the thread lined up with the screw, especially when you're working on such small items. Again, you can use your screwdriver from an angle to get all that together. And there we go. That's where we have that now. Now we're going to move on to a different screw now. So we're going to move on to the one we spoke about earlier, which was the Sam Brown. So that was the separate screw that came with a ball on top and a longer screw that you should have separated later on from your other ones. So we pop the screw through the back on a Sam Brown, which is a stud to make closures, and the larger stud we can just twist it on. So again, on the right side of your leather, you should now have a ball, like so. So you should have this stud that will later on be the closure of your horse purse. Now we just have 2 holes left on this piece. So we have one there and we have one there. So we can now overlap those holes over the top of this square piece. So I'm going to overlap like so, and I will just zoom out so you can see. So we just put our Sam Brown in. We've got one last hole on this piece, and I'm going to overlap it onto the corner of the leather that has the logo on. So we don't want to overlap it onto this hole or that hole. That's going to fold together to make our keyring. So we want to put it on this hole. You can actually have this either way. So you decide which way round you would like that to go. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to do it this way by putting the female stud through there and then adding a male stud through the back, because now we're coming to the end, it's more easy to reach. And hopefully you can see that. If there's any bits you would like me to zoom into, or if you'd like me to upload a video of any other techniques, just let me know in the comments. And again, so I've overlapped mine this way, so I want to make that symmetrical on the other side. So I'm going to put the female screw through there, and I'm going to put my other screw, the male counterpart, through the corresponding hole. After this, we only have 2 more screws, and then you'll have your finished luxury leather piece of horse art, you know, that you'd pay a lot of money for retail. So this is one of my copyrighted designs in my kits, so you can use these patterns to make your own luxury leather goods that would otherwise, you know, be a lot more expensive if you were buying it from a luxury retailer. But through inventing unique seam designs and unique patterns, it means you can enjoy learning a new craft but also make a really high quality product. So what we need to do now is we need to bend these over, so inwards, so this hole and this hole on the end, so that will bend to make a loop, and exactly the same on the other side, that will bend to make a loop. So these last 2 holes go together, so we've only got 1 screw to do, and I will zoom in to show you what to do with this part. You can decide which side you would like your clip on. So before you put your screw in, on one side, put your trigger hook through, not through this way, otherwise it won't be right. You want to put it, you know, so the clip is facing the right side, the outside of the right side of the leather. So now I am going to put a screw through there, and I'm going to trap this trigger hook by finishing this screw. And you can do it by hand, or you can use your little miniature screwdriver that might be in your kit, whichever way, or you might have your own tools that you like to work with. It's entirely up to you. So that's the trigger hook, which is now being attached to the horse purse. So as you can see, you know, make sure, you know, you have pushed that part down, the part, and it should stay there now. Now that went towards the end. And as you can see, all the chrome hardware is looking very nice and sparkly. Now we need to do exactly the same thing with the last piece. So you'd put your ring through your last strap, and you would put your finished stud through this hole, and then you would wrap and trap the ring by closing that over. Again, now you can put your male screw through to the female screw, and you can use one of your screwdrivers. You can use one of your screwdrivers to tighten that up, whether it's this jewelry screwdriver or whether it's one of the smaller versions that we use, or using your own. Now our purse is almost finished. We just need to close it. So don't worry if you have some extra screws left, because we do put extras in your kit, just in case you make a mistake. They're very easy to drop. I'm very clumsy, so I'm always dropping these screws on the floor, and sometimes I can't find them. So now this Sam Brown, to close your purse, there is a hole with a dash next to the logo. This is hard to do until you've opened and closed your purse a few times. So you will have to push quite hard to get your flap over your Sam Brown stud. But now, as you can see, you have your finished horse purse. You have your clip that you can clip it onto your desired location, whether that's a belt loop or a trouser, or you might want to clip it onto another bag. You can also, if you want to open it, you can push these inside. So if you have a bunch of keys that you want to keep safely tucked away, you can push that inside. So all your keys are on the inside of the horse. There's quite a lot of space inside for keys and some cards. So you can push that on the inside if you prefer. You can push the clip on the inside if you prefer and close it. It's entirely up to you how you want to use your piece of leather art. I tend to use mine like this. I have the clip on the outside, and I will clip it onto my backpack or my bag, and I will keep all my keys inside. So that's often how I use mine. So I often use it so I can clip it onto something, and then I can keep all my keys all safely tucked out of the way. And then when I'm looking for my keys, it's very easy to find because it's quite a unique key ring, and it's easy to find and very noticeable. So hope you enjoyed your leather art workshop. Would you like any other animals? Are there any different animals that you would like me to make? I have done in the past some pigs, some cats, some dogs. So if you would like me to make any other different patterns, or demonstrate how to do this type of complex pattern cutting, then let me know, and I can add more kits to my Etsy store or my website, which is mattocksbags.co.uk. And please tag me in to anything you're making. I'd love to see how you get along, so you can tag me in on Instagram at Lee Mattocks, or you can tag me in on Facebook at Mattocks Bags, or you can email me pictures at inquiries@leemattocks.co.uk. Okay, hope you enjoyed today's workshop, everybody, and well done making your first piece of leather art. Or maybe you've already made some pieces with me before, either through an online workshop or a face-to-face workshop, or maybe you've bought some products from some of the galleries that I sell with in the UK. So bye everyone, see you next time.